back, Larry Hinkle. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. You have a new book, and that is what we are going to talk about. Um,
Oh,
so
you can't see it because it's
yeah, put it over your move it over. There you go. There you go. Perfect. There you go.
there it is. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Look at that. Zombie. This. Although there's no zombies in the book, not this one.
Okay. So Larry, when we first talked, you were saying that you got published like late in life. So here it is a year later and you've got your second book. Like how freaking cool is that?
It's pretty freaking cool, to be honest. I mean, I will be what month is it now?
We're in
Is it March
March.
now?
We're
Yeah, so
March.
just May, April, May, June. 3 months I'll be 60. And I've got my second book out now. So it's
That
it's
is
pretty cool.
that is so cool. That is so cool.
I wish I'd have started earlier, but what are you gonna do?
So that's kind of one of the things I would like to talk about is because you published late in life and then now you have your second book. So I kind of want to talk about a few things, that being one, but let's talk about your book first before we
Okay.
start deep diving into things of writing. Let's talk about the book. So let the listeners know about your second book, please.
It is called the Eris Ridge Trail. It's a novella. It's my first thing I've written longer than 5,700 words. It clocks in about 36,000, which is funny because a lot of the reviews I'm getting are saying, I wish it were longer. I wish it were longer. I was like, do you have any idea how hard it was for me to write this long? 'Cause after a while, you start thinking, no one's going to read this anymore. But now I wish I'd have written it longer, but that's okay. Anyway, it's a cosmic horror road trip with dogs is the best way to describe it, I guess. There is there's this trail called the Eris Ridge. Yeah, it's a trail that kind of meanders through space and time. And once you get on, it's easy to get on it, but once you get on it, it's very, very hard to get off of it, is the best way to put it. And there's remnants of different civilizations along the trail at different times. There's these things called scene quakes where you could be walking and you turn around and the landscape behind you has completely changed, without when you weren't looking. There are creatures on it, these pale white man-like things that skitter around. They don't have any eyes, they just have all teeth, but they're also telepathic and they chase you through the woods. And that thing's pretty cool. There's the big, huge cosmic beastie that's on the cover. Maybe I can show you the cover. Will the cover show up now? Nope, still blurred.
Yeah, I was like,
Anyway,
there you go.
there's a cosmic beastie there. He's big and huge. The cover, Francois Valancourt did the cover, and it's completely and totally awesome. And anyway, so there's these four people are on stuck on the trail. Eventually, they all meet up together, and then they have to figure out how to get home. And they don't really like each other a lot at first, but that's they kind of have to get along to get out and not get killed.
Right, right. And that's one of the things. Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you for sharing about the book.
Is
So
that a good enough distinction? I don't. I
it
think it's
is,
good. I
it
think
is.
it's pretty much with no spoilers, and they're dogs.
Yes, no spoilers. Definitely no spoilers. So, um, because you published later and now you have your second one, did book one and two, did you feel a sense of, okay, you know what? I've put myself out there once, I've put myself out there twice. I'm ready to write like four. And again, I know a lot of words is a challenge for you and for me as well. So we're going to talk about that as well. The succinct being, in other words, brevity and succinctness. But first, now that you've had book one and two under your belt, do you foresee possibly writing more, either a continuation of this book or something new and something different? Did this spark a new, like, verve in you to say, you know
Uh,
what?
well,
I can freaking do this.
I was on a podcast a few weeks ago, and I kind of locked myself into saying that I would write another book on the Eris Ridge Trail. Although it's going to be a group of interconnected short stories rather than a novella or novel, because I've got several short stories that are actually going right now that are all take place on this trail. So that'll be my next book. Unless I think of something else. But yeah, I'm having so much fun writing this and exploring this. And part of the reason why is that it lets me spend time with my dogs, Sammy and Coco, who I don't have anymore. So getting to write them is as close as I'm going to get to, having them around again. So that's kind of fun. And also just the way I set this world up, I can do pretty much anything I feel like doing, whatever. Said, oh, this book should have, werewolves or something. I could put a werewolf in it. There's nothing that's going to stop me from doing it, except that I don't know, werewolves are kind of hard to write. So
So because you created this world, and now you have, like you said, now you have so many opportunities to just keep building within this world. And is that something that you, like I said, when you first dipped your toe in, you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna write this little thing right here, and I'm just gonna see what happens. And then now you're like, holy crap, I just wrote this little thing, and now it's this
it just
beast.
keeps getting bigger. I it there are four stories in my collection that came out last February that all have characters or settings that appear in this book. You don't need to have read the collection to understand what's going on here. It's like a totally standalone book. It's like, but if you have read the collection, if you want to read the collection, it's called The Space Between. But the stories Lost at Last, Tunnel at the End of the Light, the title story Space Between, and Strange Constellations all appear in this book. But like I said, I cover the backstory in this book, what those stories have to do with it. You get a little bit deeper characterization if you've read those stories. But after I wrote those stories, and the collection came out, and I was just trying to think, what do I want to write next? And there were those four stories just kept. I liked the way they ended, but I kept thinking there's more to explore in these, especially in Lost at Last, which was the last story in the collection, which had Wayne and Sammy in it. Their story was like one of the few that ended like on a happy note in the collection, and I was like, I want to see where else this story goes. And then I realized that all these other people are showing up. They want to be in on this adventure too. So there are Eric and Coco from the story Tunnel at the End of the Light are in it. And then the story, the Space Between, the title story, the character in that book was actually named Eric, because Eric is like a placeholder name for me, and then I just forgot to change it when it went to press. So for this book, I had to change it to Craig, so there weren't two Erics running around.
Sorry about that.
And then there's a new character, Shelley, reporter.
Yes.
Yes, so she's in it too. So those are the main characters. And yeah, once I realized those stories still kept going, they all just kind of just meandered and joined up together, and then just kept on going.
And and I enjoyed it. And what I thought was really cool was, so I did read, the first book, but I was also trying to think, okay, if I hadn't read the first book, what would be my take? So I was trying to make it so that I was trying to pretend as if I hadn't read the first one, so that I could really get a feel for these characters, basically have like a fresh take on this
Hmm.
particular story. And it made like you didn't have, like you said, you didn't have to read book one in order to follow along with this.
No,
Um,
it just, what did I say to my friend Scotty? It's like salt in the gravy. If you've read the other one, it just deepens it, it gives it a little more depth and flavor.
for sure, for sure.
Because that was something I worried about at first, but then I had Linda Nagel edit it for me and didn't tell her what was going on, and she totally followed it. And I didn't tell any of the people who blurbed it that it was based on these other four stories, and nobody said anything about like, this is really hard to follow, blah 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 blah. So yeah, it worked out really really well.
Yeah, it was, like I said, because I had the previous conversations and the other stories in my head. It deepened because we talked about the corn maze, and so I got
Hmm.
excited when the opening scene was a corn maze. So that's the only spoiler I'm going to give is corn maze. But because we talked about that before, I feel it's safe to talk about. And so I got excited with a new character, Shelley, and a corn maze. And first thing I thought was, okay, Larry, where are we going? Where are you taking me? What's gonna
We're
happen?
all we're all
And
going to the corn maze.
we're going to the corn. So again, thoroughly entertained and enjoyed this, this new take with these new characters.
Oh, cool.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah. And so uh let's deep dive into some writing questions here. I do have some writing questions for you.
Okay.
Um, again, and okay, please don't take this personally. I'm an older podcaster too, so I'm not a little whippersnapper. So it's not meant to be like offensive in any way. But do you think because you tended workshops that it helps you put yourself out there? Like, do you think if you hadn't attended workshops, because obviously you're writing later, if you hadn't attended workshops, do you think you would just be writing at home, just like sitting at the typewriter, just like, oh, I'm just gonna
Um,
keep stories to myself? But because you
you know, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, because you had done workshops, you did put yourself out there. Again, you're putting yourself out there like little by little by little. Do you think that that is what helped kind of help you cross the threshold to finally being published?
Well, I mean, all of those certainly help with the confidence, and it helps with the product too. I mean, I've taken, oh my gosh, let me see, Fright Club 1 and 2. I went to Borderlands boot camp, you know, back when it was cool. Um, I did the Crystal Lake, their short story writing class. I did their novella class. The novella class is what helped me with this a lot. But I think what helped me also getting up the nerve to put my stuff out there was because I mean I wanted to be a writer. I mean, we went over this, last time when I was younger. I wanted to be a writer, and I got beat up so bad in my creative writing classes at college that I quit for basically 30 years. And my day job, I'm an advertising copywriter, and so I just got used to 99% of the stuff you present doesn't get ever produced. And I just got used to people just beating me up and just so I just eventually I just one day just said, I'm going to start writing a story again and see what happens. And the first, I mean, it's funny, I think the first one I wrote and submitted, it got published. And then I thought, oh fuck, this is easy. And then I went like 18 months before anything else was published again. So it wasn't so easy. And rejections hurt. I mean, sure, it still sucks when you submit something and it gets rejected. But I don't take it personally like I did when I was younger, back in college. It still sucks, and I'll still mope around the house, and then just like, motherfucker, I can't believe my story didn't get in there. Blah 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 blah. But then you bitch around for an hour or so, and bitch to your friends who also got rejected, and then you move on.
I think that's part of like the writing process as well. That's, you're because I don't know about you, but sometimes, I feel like, gosh, this piece is so good. Like, why don't they want it? Like, what am I missing? Right. And then, like you said, you bitch with your friends and you say exactly those same words. And then you kind of like, okay, well, I'll
Yeah.
just keep trying. I'll just keep trying.
Someone will buy it. If they don't buy it, it's an original in your next collection.
There you go. There you go. So, one of the things that you and I both struggle with is um, I can talk for hours, but when I write like very succinct, and brevity is like, part of it. And again, I don't know if it's because, that's just a natural inclination. That's what you do that for a living. Same with SOPs. We talked about this before. So my question to you is, because you struggle with brevity and being succinct, how do you push yourself forward to write more words? What do you do to conquer that?
Evidently, I don't do enough since everyone keeps saying, I wish this story were longer. I want to know what else happens, blah, blah, blah. So, my writing process it's very different than a lot of people's process because I write advertising. I write a lot of dialogue. So a lot of my stories, I will just write the dialogue first. I just put these two characters in a room and just have them start talking and see what happens. And then I go back and start expanding it and expanding because like most people, their first drafts are way longer than it turns out being, and they have to cut. My first drafts are way shorter, and I just keep adding and adding and adding and adding another layer and another layer and another layer, and just keep making it bigger that way. I think my training as a copywriter, which I've been doing for 30 years, so it's not like I can just overcome it overnight, is that if you're writing a radio spot, you've got 60 seconds. I mean, you can't make the spot any longer. So you've got 160 words, plus or minus 10, 15 words, and that's it. So you have to learn to write to that space and convey as much information in that space as you possibly can. And for me, I guess sometimes that's a problem because I just write the bare minimum, and then I was like, well, I want to know more about this, and I want to know more about that. So, oh, okay, I guess I'll throw some more shit in there. I shouldn't say it like that, but it's hard. It's hard for me to write longer. It's I need to write short first, and then just keep building it and building it and building it.
And I love that because, as journalism was my first major, and it's very important that when they
Mine
tell
too.
you 500 words or 200 words, you don't give them 205, you give them 200 or
Yeah.
199. Like, so I don't know if it's because, that is my first training is to just be concise. Um, and
So did you
so
end up being a journalist?
so I yes and no. I started out as a journalism major, but because I saw a shift in the industry way back when, I decided to change it from journalism to English. But my professors, they knew I was a journalism. They're just like, there's no fluff. Like it needs, and I'm just like, I don't know how to do that.
Uh,
I'm programmed to just give you this. And I really like working within those parameters. So that was going to be my next question. Like, I like working within that space as opposed to
hmm
having this space. That
Yeah.
freaks me out.
It's funny. When I got into J school and realized that I hated interviewing people. So that's why I quit. I said, I'm not doing this. I don't want to talk to people. This sucks. So I switched. They had just started the advertising program at Ohio State when I was there, so I switched over to copywriting because talking to people is just. Look at how fidgety I am. Talking to people is just awful. Um, but yeah. So I was, you learn in J school to write short. You get to advertising, and then they take, you've got a word count, or you've got a time count, or you've got a space size count, and then you learn to do it. And that's when I first started writing stories again. A lot of my stuff was flash, and you just because that's what I was comfortable doing. I got 1,500 words, I got 1,000 words. I can do that. That's easy. And it's
Yeah.
so funny because all of my friends have a hard time doing Flash. They're like, how did you write? I can't write something 1,500 words. I was like, shit, man, I could barely write 2,000 words at the time when I was starting. I can do it easy now. For a while, my short stories when I was starting, they were all like 1,500 words or so, and now they're usually around 4,000, 5,000 words. So I'm getting better. I don't know. A novel's a big commitment, man. And this novella took me like I think from the time I started to the time it was going to the editor was maybe 6 months. So that's a good time frame. A novel's going to be 2 or 3 times that, and I just no,
Yeah.
and it just takes up so much of your time. It's like I want to do something else now. I don't have the attention span to write a novel. I mean, I barely read novels anymore. Most of what I read anymore these days is either novellas or collections or anthologies.
Yeah, and see, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I enjoy like I said, the brevity. Um, so I really like how you threw in a lot of pop culture in there. You referenced like aliens, and spaghetti westerns. And now I'm gonna admit, I have actually never seen a spaghetti western, if you can
Oh my
believe
God.
that. I
I,
know.
That's crazy. You have to watch if you're not going to watch. Well, the Good, Bad, and the Ugly is the best one of the bunch. But my personal favorite is High Plains Drifter because that could or couldn't be a ghost story. Also, yeah, it's High Plains. I think I have High Plains Drifter DVD up here above me here, and it is the best friggin' movie. Oh my God! But the character Craig, since he comes from the most modern time, when he ends up on it, because I guess it's not that big of a spoiler to reveal. Some people you get on the trail at different times, but you all appear at the same time. So there's some cultural differences between the people on the team, just on how they perceive things, the words they use, their reference. But Craig being the most recent, he uses a lot of movie quotes. When there's some situation he doesn't know how to respond to, it's a movie quote
Which
comes in there. But
I
it's
love.
yeah, it's funny. I said I forgot when I was talking about programs I did the mentorship in the HWA, and Greg JG Faraday was my mentor, and he was always when I'd hand a story into him, he was always taking out all my pop culture references, and I put them back in. So there's a lot
You.
there's a lot of Easter eggs in here too that if people get, they're going to be like, oh, that's really cool. And if they don't get them, it won't matter because, but there are several in there for like, there's from the stand, from the Dark Tower. I got a reference to Circadia, a town my friend Tom Dede, his town, Walpurgis County from Kyle. I don't never remember how can't remember how to pronounce Kyle's last name, if it's Touche or Toucher or Tusher, but he wrote Livewire, and so some stuff in here. There's a call out to Kevin Lucia's Clifton Heights, just all the things that I really groove to. Since this is my world, I can put whatever I want into it. Some of them are simple as just seeing it on a road sign like Circadia, 20 miles, And someone who's getting that's, oh wow, that's Circadia, that's Tom's town. But if they don't get it, they're just like, oh, it's a town, no big deal. But I love putting little stuff like that in there for people to get or not get.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming across those towns, I was going to ask you, I was like, in my mind, I was like, I wonder if that's intentional. So there you go. So thank you.
Yes, they're all intentional. Just give little teeny little Easter egg shouts.
I love it. So one of the conventions, I don't think we talked about conventions in the first time we chatted. So now that you have your first book and now your second book, how are you doing more like did that
Yeah, I'm
give you
doing
confidence to do conventions and want to do more?
well, it's that, and it's that, I need to sell books. So you kind of have to go. This is the most uncomfortable chair. I'm sorry, they're so fidgety. Yeah, you got to sell books. So I mean, I have to go out, but I've been doing conventions ever since the very first StokerCon. I think it was in 2016, maybe in Vegas.
Yes.
I'd gone to that one every year. And that was when I was just first starting writing. I mean, I didn't get serious until 2018, maybe 2000, but I still wanted to go and meet people and hang out because that's the only way you're going to learn things. So they always have classes at SoccerCon
Yeah.
and panels, and I took all the classes and all the panels, which helps. But last year when I finally had my collection came out, I went to AuthorCon, which is the big one in Williamsburg,
Yeah.
Scares the Care puts on. And that was my first show I actually sold the book at. And that was pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie. There might have been an edible taken for that one. So I'm getting more, I guess, more used to it. Because in addition to that, last year I also did let me think. I did that one. Then I did the mass signing at SoccerCon in San Diego. So I did that one. That's only like a couple hours where everyone just comes around. And then I did a signing in, I could never I don't know if it's Wilkes-Barre or Wilkes-Barre. I keep hearing different things, but I did a signing there last October with C.W. Breyer and Kevin Lucia and John Langan and a few other people. Robert Atone was there, and that was really cool. Just a Saturday afternoon at a Barnes and Noble for a few hours, but that was cool. And then last year. I got invited to Merrimack, which is the big one up in Haverhill, Massachusetts, the Merrimack Halloween Book Festival. So that one was a lot of fun. That was an all afternoon thing. And then so I sold my book at all of those. Now this year I'm going AuthorCon's in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to that. That's where the book will premiere in real life. It releases on Amazon tomorrow, although people were getting it this weekend, which kind of was like weird. People are sending me a message, "Hey, I got your book." I'm like, "What the fuck, man? It doesn't come out till Tuesday." Thanks, Amazon. So but AuthorCon is the first place I will be selling it. I was supposed to go to Ghoulish, and then finances just didn't work out, so I had to pull out of Ghoulish. That stinks because Max puts on a great show down there. But so I'm doing AuthorCon. Then I'm also doing the Kensington Book Fair in Kensington, Maryland. And some of these I'm doing with my Tom. We're sharing a table at AuthorCon. We're sharing a table at Halfway to Halloween, which is the people who do Fright Reads. They're doing it's one they're doing in April, April, May, Halfway to Halloween. So I'm doing those two. I apply. Oh, I'm doing the Fredericksburg, Virginia Book Festival with Valerie Williams in June, I think. I'm doing a signing in Wilkes-Barre in June. I'm doing Fright Reads in September, and hopefully I get to go back to Merrimack again. I applied to go back to Merrimack in October, so we'll see. So yeah, I'm doing a bunch of shows this year because I got this book ain't gonna pay for itself, so I need the money.
That's awesome. There's not I love hearing that you're going to be out sharing, yourself and your work out there because
That's not so bad now. Once I did it a couple of times, I mean, the first time was the worst. But I know so many of the authors that are there, so I just hang out and talk to them, and then you know you try to sell your book, but you don't want to be too pushy. So I probably wasn't pushy enough. But I mean, I sold a decent amount for a noob that no one had ever heard of. But after doing it a couple more times now, it's like, yeah, I can sit at a table and just talk to people. It's like no big deal. Maybe half an edible. So we'll see.
that's awesome. I like us, and I think that's like, again, everything is like, leading up to, you dip your toe in and you're like, okay, you know what? It's not so bad. And so I love hearing that you're like swimming now. Like you've got a pool floaty and you're just like chilling, You're like, I can do this. I can
I
do
got a
this.
lot of time to make up for. When you don't start till this late, you only got so many years left. So I still, and it's weird. I feel bad about all those years I didn't write. And I feel bad now when I'm not writing, but I'm like I'm a, I take a lot of time between things because I need to come up with an idea that I really like. So I just haven't written that much lately. I mean, a lot of it is just because my time's taken up by book promoting. You're always writing, press releases and podcasts and stuff, trying to get people to notice it. But it's I think God, it's been like 3 weeks that I've written a story. What the hell? But that's just my process. And once I come up with an idea, I'll write it really fast because I'm used to working under a dead. I think that's why for someone starting out, and this is something that works for me too, is to write for anthology calls. Like you'll see like on the Submission Grinder and Duotrope are the two best places to look for them. And in the Facebook, there's like a couple of Facebook groups that have open calls and that way you get an idea. You say this has to be a zombie story. So you've got the idea and it has to be like, 5,000 word limit. So you get that and it's due by March 31st. So that puts everything in a box for me. And I say,
Yeah.
okay, I know I have to write it. You mentioned earlier, like having a box versus just like, I work
Yeah.
much better when I have tight constraints than I
Yeah.
do.
I need
Um,
parameters.
yes. So that helps quite a bit. That's why the Fright Club classes that Mona Lawrence does are so helpful because you get a new subject every week. It's a 10-week course, and he gives you like you on Sunday night you have a Zoom call, and he gives you like this is this week's theme. You got to write 2,000 words on it within by next Saturday, and then you also there are two people in the class. You have to read their 2,000 word story. So it's constant writing and constant editing, but it's a super tight deadline, and he gives you a very specific theme, and it's really really great because a lot of the books, a lot of the stories in my collection started out in that class because they're good story starters, and you say, oh, I can do something with this. This is really cool. But it just, for me at least, it helps having someone giving me a little direction, saying I need this many words by this time. It's okay, I could do that. Versus just like, I'm gonna write a novel. It's whenever I write it, that's great. I mean, if you're like my friend Krista Carmen, she's is writing her, or she just finished her third book now, because we were beta reading in writers group. But she has an agent and a publisher and everything, so she has deadlines. I've got to get my edits done by this. I got to get the manuscript turned in by this. But that's because you have an agent and a publisher. Like if I were to write a novel now, it would just be me, just like blah de da de da. I'm going to write a novel. Look at me, hoity-toity, and it would never get done. So, and then when it does get done, it takes forever to get published. You got to shop it around, and then it goes in the queue for a year at least. And it takes, I mean, I self-published this one, so this is all because I knew I didn't want to wait a year, after my last collection. I wanted something new to come out. And I have a lot of friends like, who are all, they self-publish now. They've got contracts, they're hybrid, they'll self-publish things, and they walked me through it and told me everything I needed to do and set up the publishing imprint. I paid for the cover, I paid for the editing, I paid for publicity. And so I've got, you sink a lot of money into it up front, but it's yours. I have control over everything in this book versus if you were with a publisher, you don't get to pick the editor, you don't get to pick the cover artist. Your agent has opinions, your publisher has opinions, and sometimes you have to take them because that's theirs, and you get put in their queue. So you could sell it after you wait 6 months when they get back to you. You could sell it, and then it's going to be another 2 years before it hits the market. And at almost 60 years old, like I am, I ain't got 2 years to wait for another book to come out. I'm doing the shift myself. So
Like,
my collection came out with a publisher, and it was great. But I was like, I finished this one, and I just like, man, I just don't have time to wait. I need to do this now. So let's see. Hopefully it pays off. I could have made a big, huge mistake not shopping it around, but so far, I mean, I got a lot of really, really great blurbs for it from some of my favorite authors. Like Clay and Philip Fracassi and Krista gave me a good review. Jeff gave me a good review. Evie Knight is another one that gave me, Richard Thomas gave me a great review. So I've got tons of good reviews or blurbs. The reviews are coming in really well, so I think I did okay. But it's still just scary doing something on your own.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, so Larry, because this is late for both of us, we are not having our regular coffee.
Yeah, people
I'm
probably
having a
noticed I was having a
decaf,
beer.
right?
So
You're having a beer. I'm having a
beer.
decaf.
Well, it looks like an invisible beer. Check that
Oh,
out.
it looks
That's
like you're
pretty
drinking a
cool.
zombie. So I have my decaf. There we go.
There you
There we
go.
go. So, but you do like coffee.
I have a favorite coffee, but
So
it's
tell us
Caribou.
about, yeah.
Have you ever had Caribou coffee?
Okay, so yes, I can actually say, with confidence, I had it in the airport because I had a layover in Minneapolis, I believe,
Yeah,
and it
that's their
was
base. They founded Minnesota.
sweet. Um, the was it was the wrestler who was the governor at the time. That's
Oh,
how
Jesse
long ago.
Ventura. Yeah, Jesse
Yes,
Ventura.
because I was at the gift shop and it said our governor can beat up your governor. Um,
He could.
right? So that's how long ago. So I had Caribou coffee way back when. But please share what it
Well,
is you like about Caribou
they
coffee.
had they had Caribous at when I worked in, I grew up in Columbus. That's where I had my first my first couple big agency jobs in downtown Columbus, and they had Caribou's there. And this was before, Starbucks started going everywhere. So I just always drank at Caribou. And I don't like Starbucks because their stuff always tastes burnt. I'm trying to think if I've even dropped a single F-bomb tonight. I just caught myself on a shit. That's pretty good.
You did. I think you did.
Did
And
I? Ah, dang it.
it's okay.
Ah,
It's okay.
I'm
I'm not
trying
going to
not to
bleep it out or
F-bomb so
anything.
much.
Don't worry.
Good.
Okay. So keep going and then we'll talk about F-bombs. So
Okay,
keep
so
going.
anyway, Starbucks always tastes burnt. Gross. I don't like Starbucks. And Dunkin' is just weak ass. It's like Dunkin', their coffee is so weak. It's so weak you have to like buy an extra caffeinated version of Dunkin'. It's like, why am I going to buy an extra caffeinated version that's not as good as regular old Caribou? And so they were expanded everywhere, and then they've got bought by Panera and Einstein Brothers Bagels. So if you eat a Panera now, chances are you're drinking Caribou coffee. But I guess they used to have one here near the house that closed a few years before we moved here, and it's hard to find here now in the grocery stores. There's only one store that has it. So when I make it to that one store, I'll buy a shit ton of Caribou coffee, you know, and just because it's in the locked bags, it's not going to go bad or anything, and it's the best coffee. It doesn't taste burnt, and it's not too weak. And Starbucks and Dunkin' can suck it. Caribou is the best.
I love it. So, like I said, the first time I had it was when he was the governor. So that's like I said, that's how long ago I had Caribou coffee, and like I said, it was really funny because I was stuck at the airport. I want to say it was anywhere between 2 to 4 hours. It was strictly a late. I literally I had to go to Chicago. And in order for me to get back to Dallas, I had to go up to Minneapolis. Out of all,
Of
like my
course.
plan, it was so weird. I went from Dallas to Minneapolis to Chicago or something like that. I'm like, how am I not able to go to Chicago? Or maybe it was North Dakota. No, sorry,
Yeah.
North Carolina.
Things
All
are
I
just
know
going to
was
get better too.
all I know was I couldn't get from where I needed to go point A to point B. I had to go north. And I just remember I was like so confused. I'm like, why am I going north? Like this is such a waste of because again, company money, I wanted to be efficient. I'm like, this seems so inefficient. Like, why are you sending me north to go east? So I was like, well, you know what? I'm here on business. I've got nothing else better to do. I'm stuck at the airport. I might as well drink some coffee and I might as well go shopping. And I remember drinking it and trying it for the first time. And my first thought was, wow, that is a bold coffee. Like I just remember it being a bold flavor,
Yeah,
not
it's not for the
bitter.
wimpy people.
Yeah, it wasn't bitter, it wasn't acidic, it wasn't burnt flavor. I just remember it being bold. That's the only word I can describe was that was some bold coffee.
When a couple years ago, when we had StokerCon in Denver, because I lived in Colorado for 15 years, and like the last 4 years or so, though, um, Caribou expanded into Denver, so I was able to get it there. But I don't live there now anymore, obviously. But when we were StokerCon, there was a Caribou right around the corner, so I was there every day. I'm going to Caribou, and there was a Sam's Number 3 restaurant right across the street, which had my favorite green chili. I used to eat there all the time when I lived in Denver, so I ate every day of StokerCon. I ate lunch and dinner at Sam's and had Caribou coffee for breakfast. And they give you, I don't know if they still do it now, but this is a few years ago, but they always used to give you a one or two chocolate covered espresso beans or coffee beans with your coffee. They would just give them to you, so you could just chew on those when you had your coffee. But if anyone sees a Caribou and they get a chance to go into it, definitely go into it because it's better than the other two big chains in the country. Far
Nice.
better.
Yes. So I don't consider myself a coffee snob. I
Oh,
just
I'm
I,
not
li-
either.
I like coffee. Like I classify myself as a coffee drinker. I can drink fancy coffee and I can drink gas station coffee. I can drink instant coffee. Like I will drink coffee. I am a coffee drinker. So, people get very hoity-toity about coffee and you have to have pour over and you have to grind. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't have that kind of time in the morning. Like I wake up, I want coffee.
Yeah.
If I have to
No,
grind for 10 minutes, you can suck it.
I ain't got time to grind. I
I
just
don't
want
have
to
time to
follow
grind.
ground.
I
I,
buy
you know, we'll we'll drink Starbucks here at the house because sometimes that's the only thing that the grocery store will put it on sale for half price if you buy 3 bags. So, and like I said, I can't get to the one store that carries Caribou all that often. So, and then so it's either like Starbucks or Pete's when it's on sale, or Seattle's Best when it's on sale. So I switch back and forth between those three, but the Caribou, that's the shit. That's the
That's the
good one.
goal. That's the goal.
Yes, when I can get it, I'm drinking the Caribou.
So, now I'm gonna ask you this question, and please don't take offense to it. So you sent me the electronic version, so I could read your book, and I did a
Mhm.
control find, and I typed in coffee, and it said none found.
There would be no chance for them to ever have coffee. They would have had to carry it with them on the trail. And who is
But
just carrying coffee with them?
but they did go to the Coke. Okay, we're gonna have to cut this part out. They went to Cocoa Gas.
But they're all cleaned out. There's nothing
There was
in them.
they didn't even have instant. They couldn't get any.
No.
Oh,
The shells were well, one of them had a couple packages of beef jerky, but that's
yes.
all they've ever found in there.
Okay.
Like a blanket or something. But food wise, all they ever found was a couple old packages of beef jerky.
Okay. Okay.
Everything else had been raided and gone, and
I'll accept that. I thought for
you could leave
sure. I
that
was like,
in. You don't have to cut it. I mean, that just makes people be like, "Oh, wow,
I'm like,
who raided the
could,
stores?"
couldn't there have been some instant coffee on the shelf at the Cocoa Gas?
That would have made life too easy for them. I wanted to, if I'd have given them a beer or found an old bottle of whiskey or something, which is disgusting. I hate whiskey. But at least if they're on the trail, they probably would like some whiskey. Or when they get hurt, which happens, and they would have some whiskey to pour on their cuts.
Yes.
But yeah, I didn't give them that either.
No. 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 Yeah. So no spoilers. There's like I said, but that I think that's safe. I think it's safe to keep in there. So you said keep it in
Yeah,
there, so I'm gonna
that's not
keep
a
it in there.
spoiler because the
Okay.
gas stations are integral part of the trail, and they show up very soon after someone shows up on the trail. Um, so yeah, that's no spoilers. It's 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 kind of like. Do you ever watch the show From?
Yes.
Oh my God, I love this show so much. But like they've got the diner and food just shows up. It's weird. They have it too easy there. They had like cattle just wandering in from the woods and shit. Like my guys, they have to go out and hunt stuff and they have to kill it and they have to skin it and they have to put it on a stick and eat it.
You did put
Yeah.
them through some shit, that's for sure. Okay, since
It's
I
not
said
easy
it,
on the trail.
I said shit. So
Okay.
let's wrap the show up with F-bombs since we the most important thing was we talked about your book, we talked about your writing process, and we talked about coffee. So let's wrap it up with some.
Which I
Yes.
should say, it's on Amazon. People can get the ebook starting tomorrow. They can get the Kindle. You can get the physical book on Amazon now, or if you want, you can find me on the socials it's that scary Larry on all of them, and send me DM me your address, and I will ship you a signed copy. The book is $12.95 on Amazon, but I'll send you a signed copy, like $15 that covers shipping and everything. So if anyone wants it that way, they want a signed copy, hit me up.
Nice.
And if anyone is going to AuthorCon, I don't have it with me, but I have a brand new, just a 2-story chapbook that is only available in person at conventions. So it's got a story in there about these kids that are this group of kids, his older brother is picking on him too much. So they try to do a spell to make him stop, and they screw the start speaking of F-bombs, they fuck the spell all up, and bad things happen. And then the second story in it is about a company that they start doing side hustles, and the new side gig is you rent your body out to demons, and
Oh,
bad things ensue there also. So
okay.
those are really cool stories.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Oh my God, that sounds amazing. All right. So,
So speaking of F-bombs, yeah.
speaking of F-bombs, so we're gonna wrap it up with F-bombs. Um, and I don't know about you, but so code switching, right? So you speak at an elevated level, usually in a professional, capacity when you're talking with your colleagues at work. And then when you start talking with your friends, we code switch and all of a sudden everything becomes casual.
Yeah, I I have, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? A filter problem. Having worked from my home since 2008, I cuss in front of clients a lot if I'm on a Zoom call. And even I remember, God, oh my God, I remember at my last job, I just have a hard time just keeping my mouth shut. And people would bring their kids into work and they'd, Larry, quit saying that, blah, blah, there's a kid in the work. Fuck, why'd you bring your kid to work, man? You know I talk like this. I don't fucking care about your kid. This one kid, I had a magic 8 ball, and this one kid came up and he said, "What's in there?" And I was like, "Your daddy's urine." My daddy could fire you. I said, "Yeah, he probably could." So, but yeah, I don't know. I have a hard
Oh my
time.
God.
I have a hard time. I was trying hard tonight. I think I only did it a couple of times. I have been making an effort because I have a new big project that I've been working on for work where there are like, 10 people in each meeting and I don't know any of them. It's a brand new thing. So I've been on my best behavior for them and I haven't said anything. Now, the email chains, that's different. But on the Zoom calls, I have kept on my best behavior. Yes, that's a very good idea, Kenneth. Yeah. There's no Kenneth there, but if it was a Kenneth, that's how I would sound. That's a great idea, Kenneth.
Right? See, that's that professional. That's this elevated.
And then as soon as I hung up, I'd be like, motherfucker, what a fucking dumbass, Talk to my dogs, and you won't believe the shit I just had to put up with. And they're like, yeah, Papas, we heard.
Oh my God. I know, like it's so hard. And for the most part, I think the show is pretty clean. I think we keep it pretty wholesome. We keep it pretty vanilla. But every now and then you just have to be emphatic and you just have to add that little extra flavor. You got
Well,
to give it some spice. So,
that's what the word is there for, And
exactly.
as writers, we know when to properly use a word, and sometimes it needs the emphasis of a well-placed fuck.
Yes.
So there's the title for the episode, The Emphasis of a Well-Placed Fuck with Larry Hinkle. Awesome.
I'm gonna try to get my breath back. Oh my God. Okay. So on that note, I think we've reached the
Yeah,
perfect.
we'll end it on a high point.
That's perfect. I don't think we can top that, Larry. So, thank you again for wanting to come on the show, share your
Oh, thank
story,
you. This is
talk about your
great.
books, and I it's always been a pleasure. I have so much fun talking with you. So thank you.
Likewise.
And you know that the way that we end the show is with a go forth and be magical. So I would love if you would
Oh,
send us off
see
with
if I say it better than last time.
it's all good.
Go forth and be, I'll just say magical. I was going to throw an F-bomb in there, but just go forth and be magical. Now, fuck off. Sorry, that was like Gordon Ramsay. I've been watching too much Gordon Ramsay channel recently.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm so red. I'm laughing hysterically here.
Did we stop recording?
No, we did not.
Awesome. Yeah, I just tell people you got to stay for the last 10 seconds.